I'm Vince White. I'm an employment attorney. On this channel, we generally answer publicly posted questions about employment law. But I have a co host today who's going to talk about current events.
Hello, my name is Ariella or Ari Steinhorn, and I'm a writer. My work focuses on relationships at work, sometimes out of work, romantic relationships, friendships. So I write about relationships and power dynamics. And um, I also help people bring forward stories that are very sensitive in nature and previously had a hard time seeing the light of day for a variety of legal or safety or other reasons.
I love it. Do you still call yourself a midwife for stories?
I do. Well, I never call myself that myself, but the New York Times said that in their article about what I do a couple of years ago, and I kind of liked it.
I like it.
Someone else who read it, who was in the article, said, "Oh, that's very gendered, and why midwife?" But I don't know. I think it is the process of birthing something into the world. Sometimes the stories take like literally 9 months to get to get out. I think actually the New
Yeah.
York Times story about the company took 9 months to come out. So, and it's you're kind of bringing something by speaking it or saying it out loud. You're bringing something into life, and I respect midwives. I mean, that's a hard job.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with the phrase midwife. I mean, at the end of the day, like, I don't know too many women are excited to have an OBGYN, which I know is not a midwife, it's a different thing. But
Yeah.
like my OBGYN's a man. Wop wop. Like nobody's like, sweet, I got a dude. So it's just one of those things where like there's probably a general preference in that
Hmm.
role for women, like I don't know. I get
Definitely.
the
You know what
yeah,
it feels
whatever.
like. And I think I was open to seeing both men and women. And then I had a situation and with a male obstetrician, and he was like, "Yeah, this is just gonna feel a little bit crampy." I was like, "That's interesting that he knows what cramps feel like." It was not that. It was like
Oh,
it was excruciating pain. So
oh,
ever since that experience, I felt I don't know if they know. They're so clinical, and I liked him because I thought he just seemed to know exactly what he was talking about. But then he misrepresented. I don't think it was malicious that he misrepresented it to me, but I think he just has never felt that sensation before. So how would he know what it feels like, you know?
yeah. I think that makes perfect sense to me. I had a weird experience in New York. I went to get a heart doctor, like a
Yeah.
cardiologist, I guess is the phrase. And they were like, "Would you like a male or female doctor?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't care." And they like paused and they were like, "We're gonna give you a woman if you don't specify." And I was like, "Okay, like that's fine.
Wow.
Like, what is there an issue I should be aware of? Like, is she not a doctor? What are we talking about?" And they ended up asking me three times. Like, somebody came back in and was like, "Are you sure?" And I was like, "We are not looking at my genitals. I don't understand what
That's
we're talking
very
about here, but like, I'm not taking my pants off. As far as like, this is my heart. Like, there's something I should know. Why does this concern you?" And they're like, "No, no, you're fine if you're sure." I'm like, "Yeah, I think I'm sure." Like, this is weird. You're freaking me out, man. I don't know what's happening, but
So did
it's
you
actually
see
a
a
woman.
female? Who did you see? A woman?
I ended up seeing a female cardiologist, and
Okay.
then through nothing to do with her being female, she like disappeared and I never saw her again. They were like, "Yeah, she's in Miami," and I was like, "Okay, well, we had an appointment." They're like, "Yeah, we'll get you someone else." I'm like, Okay,
After they
all
made
right,
you specify like 500 times.
yeah,
Then she,
essentially,
oh man.
yeah. All
Yeah,
right, we got. Oh,
sometimes weird. Okay, what do you want to talk about first? I was thinking we could talk about this Doge child, this Doge 25-year-old man child who,
starting off with controversy. I love it. Go. Let's do it.
yes. So I'm sure a lot of people have seen, but Elon Musk has taken over several of the systems in the Treasury Department, or he did take over. I think a judge froze his ability to access some information in the last couple of days, but it's him and a team of 19 to 25-year-olds, boys slash men, who are all hackers and cryptographers and One of them, I just made a TikTok about this. He owned an LLC called Tesla.sexy and goes by the name Big Balls online. So very serious people. So these are the people like in our social security information. But so the Wall Street Journal unearthed that last year a one of the boys, the DOGE boys, tweeted about Israel and Palestine, basically saying if Gaza were wiped off the map, I wouldn't mind about that. And then he also, I think, he tweeted something about how bad Indian people were. So this was last year, and the posts were deleted. And then so people were calling for his resignation, but then Elon Musk did a poll on X basically saying, do you think, of course it's a biased poll, do you think that whatever his name is, I think his name is Marco, should be fired for like one minor transgression in the past? And people voted like, no, he shouldn't be fired, he should stay on. Clearly not understanding the part of this that's like, these are all of these people are into like eugenics. Like it's not just like, oh, a mistake, like, oh, I did something inappropriate at a party when I was a kid. Like I think it's a deeper, in my opinion at least, he's selecting people who have this deeper ideology that he has as like a child of apartheid. And so I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, just off the bat, I'm always super nervous about unelected people making changes to the government, which is something I feel about federal employees when they're promulgating rules, but also something I feel deeply about Elon Musk, who seems to have recently done a Nazi salute. So concerned. I do think, I mean, we're going to talk about the USAID one in a minute, right?
Yeah, we are.
Okay. So like not everything that's being done seems bad currently, controversial
Hmm.
opinion, but also very uncomfortable with not selecting, not voting for and I know we don't live in a republic, but like I guess we do. We don't live in a democracy. We live in a republic, right? So there's going to be some level of like unelected people doing things, but there was no referendum of any kind on Elon Musk. That's
But do
new.
you think it's like the rules don't apply to him or anyone in his orbit? Because if someone tweeted something and their employer found that, and as recently as it was a year ago, it wasn't like 15 years ago, because this person would have been like 4 years old 15 years ago. But if they tweeted something a year ago, their employer found it deleted and then tried to fire them, like would the employer, I imagine, would have a good argument to fire them.
So good. So good. I
Yeah.
mean, also there's just this concept that like he made a mistake. There's like there's mistakes. Like I was young once. I once tried to fight an entire fraternity at Mardi Gras,
Hmm.
and that did not go well for me for obvious reasons. Um, they threw me down several flights of concrete stairs, but
Oh
that's a
God.
mistake, right? Like it was fine, whatever. Uh,
Were you okay?
eh, mostly.
Yeah.
Um, they were gentlemen about the whole thing in the aftermath. They were like, "Oh damn, that was a long fall. Like, did you
Yeah.
need help? Like, that got really out of hand." And I was like, "It did."
Yeah.
Um, but like, there's things like calling for genocide or ethnic cleansing or like rape. Like, I can see somebody getting drunk and getting in a fight, but like, I've never been drunk enough to be like, I'm hurting this person who can't resist me. Like, I should engage in sex with this person against their will. Like, that's never. I don't know if there's a level of drunkenness where like if that doesn't live in your heart, that springs forth. Like I don't believe that.
Or
It
you
might
just
be
all of a sudden start, you like get drunk and all of a sudden start talking about ethnic cleansing. Like that's
yeah,
like that's not something
yeah.
that, like, to me it's not just an emotional response or like an immature response that like we all do. Like I've done loads of crazy things in my life, but like they've never come from a place of I have this view that like we should be like, detaining people in camps because they're lesser than me. Like I've just, the thought has never even crossed my mind.
And I think that's even the context. So like if you're like a well-to-do up and coming like tech bro and everything's kind of, the world's on a silver platter for you, it's even stranger that you would have that thought. Like there's people that I interact with, veterans of certain wars, and we'll
Mm,
go way back. If you lived through Nam and you like said some stuff about killing everyone in Vietnam, you shouldn't say those things. Those are bad things to say, but like also you were on in a deep seated
yeah,
condition of PTSD and being forced essentially to murder people of like a singular race for a very long and extended period of time. Like there's some context where you're like, hey, that's really bad. I do see how you got there because of like what you went through, but like you need
yeah.
to not say that. Like we need to help you. But if everything's going great, at what point are you like, people in Gaza, we should kill all of them, right? Like even like the people in I forget what the Israeli farms are called, the homestead farms. I
Kibbutz.
yes, I think
Yeah,
like I don't think they should want to commit genocide, but like I understand the tension and hate because there's a fear, right?
totally.
Like
Because you've
and
experienced it firsthand too.
yeah, yeah,
So you,
100%. And so like the context is like, hey, that's bad, and I don't want you to do this, and we need to stop you from doing this. But also in context, like it is a somewhat human emotion. The human being who's like, everything's amazing, and I'm making tons of money, and I'm a child, essentially, like in my 20s or whatever, 30s,
yeah.
not calling you a child, certainly, but like everything's great. And while everything's great, I think we should just kill a lot of people of a certain race. Like, wow, that's how you spend the time while everything's great, is you're like, we should just commit ethnic cleansing. Like, in context, whoa, why? What? It's a strange thing to think about.
I
Like,
think that they get so I wish that someone I'm sure this has been done, but to get brain scans on some of these people because I wonder if their brains have gotten so addicted to like being in the center of attention, being like they're the CEO, their company exited, they sold their company, they have so much money, they're, they're doing whatever they want to do. They're like renting yachts on a whim. Like whatever people want to do, they can do with their money for the most part. But like they need that stimulation back. They can't, when things are too good, they almost crave that power. And people who are like, I love money. I made the money. I won the capitalism game, but I miss having power. And it's different because money for sure is power, but you can just, if you wanted to just take your money and go live on purchase an island and then live on an island with people that you wanted to have around you, you could do that. But it's not enough for them. They have to like control other things. And that's when they've mastered the private sector. They're like, well, now I have to master the public sector
yeah,
and run the public sector like it's a company and view people as like weak or strong. And like the weak performers are cut or cleansed or whatever it is they think. And the strongest people are the people who, abet whatever it is that they're doing and who they think have the brains to be able to execute this plan. But
yeah,
it's like, yeah, you're so right. It's like, what if you to just wake up one morning, you've billions of dollars, and to wake up and be like, you know, I really think we should start measuring the skulls of Jewish people. Like measuring the noses of Jewish people. Like, what?
I don't know. We're gonna get demonetized now, but yeah,
Oh God,
um, no,
are we really?
we don't care about. I mean, maybe, but we don't care about the money from the
We can
channel.
cut that part out.
No, it's fine. We go with it. It was sincere,
Okay.
unless you want it out. But yeah, I don't know. People do get really bored. I just think it's like I have a buddy who made a couple hundred mil doing whatever, and then like now when I buy a car, he's like, hey, can I negotiate that for you? And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah. Can I like negotiate the deal for you? And I'm like, what do you do all day? Like what when you're not with me? Like I know you don't like your kids. Like what do you do all day? And it's just he's like, I go to the gym. I'm like, okay, you okay? Like, and negotiate cars. And then you get a call from the dealership. They're like, can you this guy? We are not talking to this man anymore. Like, who is this person? I'm like, how's it going? Like, but it's just
Yeah.
weird. Like he's so bored. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do we
Okay.
do
Should we move on to
USAID because it's
yeah.
connected?
So this feels like the biggest story of the last week, just that I
Yes.
think USAID is only keeping something like 200 employees
300,
and
I think.
300. And um, the I think the Republicans are saying this was an awful waste, and the Democrats are saying that this is like an important foreign policy mechanism that's helping ensure that we're involved in other countries and that our money is going into various initiatives in other countries. Um, I'm not an expert on USAID, but I know that I just think it's interesting that USAID was also responsible for, you know what, or not responsible, but had a huge impact in eliminating apartheid in South Africa. So it's very interesting that Elon Musk comes in and the first thing that he does is gut USAID. What do you think?
So listen, I'm never gonna be like, we should not feed that starving person. Like, that's like literally why I operate a farm. But USAID, and this is not conspiracy theory. Like, this is not even, I think, up for debate. USAID is essentially like a front for the CIA, and it's a
Mm-hmm.
foreign diplomacy and pressure tool. And essentially,
Mm-hmm.
that tool amounts to like, we'll give you money for fake stuff that you'll keep if you do what we want. Like, we once, if I remember correctly, gave Pakistan like $250 million for like women's studies. I
Right.
highly doubt that that money was used for women's studies, right? Like, that seems suspect. It also seems like I don't think the U.S. would be interested in that, and I don't think Pakistan would use that money for that purpose while they were
Mm-hmm.
housing Osama bin Laden. I suspect that might have been for something else, right? So, like, in terms of a foreign affairs tool and source of pressure, and frankly, like a weapon, because at times it is for food, and the real deal is like, hey, we're gonna feed those people, or if you don't do what we want, we're not. They're gonna starve and they're gonna murder you, ruler. So, like, how do you want this to go down? Um, and like any tool, it can be used for really good things, like ending apartheid. That's amazing. But the CIA has not done particularly well over the past, like, I don't know, 40 years. Like, I can't say the CIA has really like made the world a safer place.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe that's my ignorant view.
Yeah, I don't think so. It's such a complicated thing to distill, but I don't think so. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that like our interference in other countries has been so problematic in so many ways.
Yeah.
But also I know that, in Afghanistan, for instance, when we pulled out, it like things went south for the people there, especially the women. Like the
Yeah.
Taliban just was like completely like running wild. So um it's hard, and I feel like it can be case by case, but I just think that um I think that what's interesting is to see how many people are just saying, good for Elon Musk and Donald Trump. They're just cutting the waste. And like, I'm sure that
Yeah.
there is truth to that. I have no doubt about that, but it's so much more complicated. And we won't see the ripple effects for a long time of what that actually means
Yeah.
for other countries. And because we want the stability of other countries too. Like we want, and I'm not saying
No
we
question.
stabilize countries always, most of the time, probably not, but like we do stabilize countries. So
I got to stop telling stories, but like, I have a USAID story
yeah.
specifically that I applied for during after the initial invasion of Afghanistan. There was a program, I think it was funded to the tune of like $60 million, to bring attorneys from the U.S. over to do gender equality laws as we form the government of Pakistan or of Afghanistan. I apologize. And so I applied for that job, and again, it had been funded to the tune of like 60 million. And I'm applying for the job, and they're like, "Great, you're hired." I'm like, "You don't want to interview me?" They're like, "No, no, you're hired. It's going to be you and two other attorneys." Great. So like, what's the deal? Do I like live on a base? Like, what? Like, you have to move over there, like the whole 9 years. Yeah. No, no base. We're gonna get you a bodyguard. I'm like, okay. So like, where do I live? In the city with the government. I'm like, the city that like is a war zone? Like, no, no, it's good. I'm like, well, it's not a green zone. Yeah, it's not a green zone. Okay, who's my guard? Oh yeah, local guard. Wait, what? Not a Marine? You mean like defense contractor? No, no, no. We're gonna get you an Afghani soldier as a bodyguard, and he'll live with you. And it's just like, okay, I have no problem with Afghani people, but like my understanding is you're not great at sussing out who is on your side and who's not currently. It's pretty early in the war,
Mhm.
right? And they were like, yeah, yeah, but this one will be a good one. I'm like, okay. So like, how much do I get paid? 70 grand for how long? 2 years. Wait,
What?
you're sending three people. There's $60 million for this program. What what is the other money going for? Well, the bodyguard. I suspect the bodyguard who is local is earning less than $10,000 a year. Where's the money going?
Right.
And it's just one of those. I was like, I'm not taking this job. You're essentially selling me to my death. Best case scenario. Like this is nonsense. And they were just like, and the gentleman, very nice guy, was like a retired Army Ranger, and he was like, yeah, I wouldn't take it. I was like, what? Why are you trying to send me? Like,
Did
but
you find
that's
out where
like
the other money went? Like, where's the other money going?
exactly. That's the USAID money is never doing what it says it's doing,
Right.
right? Like, and sometimes it is ending apartheid, and that is incredible.
Right.
Sometimes it's not, you know, sometimes it's killing Kurds, and that's not great. So I am very uncomfortable with Trump and Musk, but I'm not gonna cry for USAID.
Yeah, I feel you. Um, okay, but I do want to talk to you. I want to get your thoughts on two things employment law related.
Of
OSHA,
course,
that Republicans they're now wanting to disband OSHA. And I saw some tweet. The reason I saw that, I mean, there's just so much news flying at us every second of every day.
which is
Uh,
their goal.
Even my yoga teacher this morning was like, she was like, I can't handle it. I was like, you can't handle it, and you're a yoga teacher.
Yeah.
Um, so, and the class was totally full. We had to like rearrange our mats because everybody was like, I need to be here now. Just
Wow.
experiencing Zen. But anyway, so I saw this tweet that some woman was like, "Oh, my dad works in a factory, and he works with this machine, and usually there's an OSHA supervisor of some sort looking over him, almost spotting him, but that person was not there, and his hand got really mangled." And she was essentially saying, I don't know the details of like whether they just stopped having this OSHA person come in with the new administration, or maybe he or she were out sick, or maybe like I don't know the full details. But her point was, oh, people are actually going to have hands mangled and be, these like blue collar workers who are doing really intensive manual labor. um, what are they just going to be less protected overall? Um, and I have another personal story about that, but I wanted to get your thoughts on like, will that happen? What do you think that would be in any way positive, mostly negative, nuanced?
So odds are the OSHA person was similar to like an internal EEO person, which is essentially
Yeah.
just HR. And the goal of the OSHA internally hired like private employee is to make sure the company doesn't violate OSHA regulations. So if an OSHA inspector does come by, they don't get in trouble. And
Hmm.
that does keep people safe. But
Hmm.
that's probably not someone who was hired by the federal government.
Mm,
OSHA's incredibly understaffed. It always was. It has been for many administrations in a row. And filing case with OSHA, like you're on like a 3 year delay
yeah.
minimum. So like, and also if you look at the number of places they're like inspecting, like it's gone down like fivefold in the past like decade. They're just not able to keep up. They're not funded. It's very similar to the EEOC in that way. OSHA saves lives, but it saves lives by promulgating rules, and then
Mm,
companies looking at the rules and saying, "Oh no, now they made a rule about it. If it happens, we're screwed." So they have to like figure stuff out. OSHA matters without question. OSHA should exist without question. OSHA's not doing much in enforcement.
yeah. So it's like it's preemptive. They set the rules, and the companies are like, we're going to change this so that because we're going to get fined or be investigated if something happens.
And the enforcement is almost fake. What the real result is, if a worker gets hurt and they then sue, the OSHA rules basically proof the employer should have known. They knew they were breaking the rule. They had an affirmative duty because of this OSHA rule. So now this civil lawsuit is much, much worse for the employer.
Interesting. Yeah. And I wonder, one of the craziest worker stories like this that I heard was actually when I was dating someone who was from West Virginia, which is a
Oh boy.
very, Republican place. He himself was not Republican, but
You
or
keep dating Republicans. What's going on?
I know. Um, well, it's a lot of people's parents are super Republican, but then they
That's
are a bit
I
more
misquoted.
moderate.
Yeah, I forgot. It is the
They,
parents. I apologize.
yeah, yeah,
Mea
but it's
culpa.
funny because my parents, especially my dad, he's like a very left wing professor, borderline socialist. I love my dad so much, but I sometimes I'm glad he doesn't meet these people's parents because they would just, and my dad is very respectful, but he just always comes with all these facts. So it would just be this like him calmly stating facts, but inflaming people because he's just being so um he's being a little bit dogmatic about citing things that he knows to be true. But so he was from West Virginia. And, it's obviously West Virginia is a huge blue collar hub of the country. And they were coal miners. And there's been this tension about, shifting to other forms of energy versus coal. And his dad once, I think, felt he owned a business that he was not the main laborer for the business, but he had contracts to build things. He was an electrician, but he oversaw a lot of electricians. And I think he fell off of a ladder or something and electrocuted himself.
Ooh.
Never sued the company. And then I heard another story about his dad's friend who was like bleeding from places in his body you should not be bleeding from, potentially as a result of the conditions in which he was working. I forget where he was working, but it wasn't an easy workplace. And same thing, I think he didn't have health care or something, or he wasn't covered, but these people still were so grateful to work and almost didn't want to be perceived as weak. So they wouldn't protect themselves in this way. And I just found that fascinating that you can have your body mangled or electrocuted, or you have a medical condition, and then you're still like, the avenues open to you to get something from it, but you're still like, well, that just makes me seem like I'm weak or that I'm a tattletale or X, Y, and Z. And I find that I don't, I'm not from that world, so I don't begrudge the psychology, but I just find that really interesting.
Yeah, and I don't ever understand that. I always, listen, I'm very trailer parky. So like my view is like I'm at odds with my employer, not currently
Right.
because I am in my own employer, but like even now sometimes. But I don't understand that at all. And I understand that is generational. Like my grandfather was like an IBM man,
Yeah.
IBM for life. And then in the mid 80s, IBM was like, turns out that's not a thing. We'd
Right.
like to end all the older managers' careers, right? It's just like, that's what happens. In my view, that's what you get, type of thing, and
Yeah.
it's perspective. I don't know.
It's so true. Yeah. I don't really get it either because I've ever since I started working for myself, I've just realized how they don't care about you. I mean, I know that sounds cynical, but they don't. And only you can care about you in that way.
Yeah.
And they, like individual people can care about you, but systems can be built up in a way that protect you. But it's the whole idea of workplace is my family, and like I would never betray them. Well, like they would betray you. It's like a tale
It's
as old
not
as time.
family. I
No.
understand that you spend more time with them than you spend with your own family, but I mean, it's just not. Like
Yeah.
I've had employees that I care about greatly, and then they lie about a deadline. And it's just
Right.
one of those things where it's like, hey, I care about you, but not as much as I care about me or our clients. So like you gotta
Yeah.
go. Like it just is what it
Yeah.
is. And their perspective is I'll hate you forever. We were family. And it's like, yeah, we were cool, but like this place exists to help people, not
Yeah.
to like let you feel like you have a family. So it's just I don't know.
But I think that's good because you have boundaries. I think it's creepy when the workplaces or the employers give this false sense of like love.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I don't know whether I should knock.
These are no worries. It's okay. So yeah, I think that's a bit creepy when they give this
Very.
false sense of kumbaya. It's like, well, we're here to do a job, and yeah.